You are listening to the Happiest Lives podcast with Jill Lillard, episode 112.
Welcome to the Happiest Lives podcast, where you'll learn to think better, feel better, and become the woman God says you already are. Here's your host, Jill Lillard.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Happiest Lives podcast as we continue our Loosening Your Grip series. Today, we're talking about something that shows up a lot in our relationships. It's exhausting, and if we're honest, most of us do it without even realizing it. It's the habit of trying to manage other people. Whether it's your spouse, your child, a parent, a friend, you've probably found yourself thinking, if they would just fill in the blank. If they could see what I see, if they change this one thing, everything would be so much better. We might even ask for that change, and there's nothing wrong with making a request. But often, what starts as a simple ask turns into a low-grade pressure campaign. We start monitoring, managing, controlling, and over time, it creates tension, disconnection, and frustration on both sides. So today, I want to walk with you through what it means to love without controlling, to honor your values without expecting others to live by your script, to stay grounded in your own model, and still stay open to connection. When we want someone to change, it usually comes from a good place. We care. We want things to work. We want peace. But here's what happens when we get caught in the control trap. We start putting all our energy into what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're doing. And when we do that, we're no longer focused on what we actually have control over, ourselves. Galatians 6:5 reminds us, each one should carry their own load. You have your work, they have theirs, and your job isn't to carry their load, even if you think they're doing it all wrong. Let me give you an example. A woman I was coaching, let's call her Erin, came to me completely drained. She was in a pattern with her teenage daughter that was wearing her out. Every day after school, she'd ask how things went, and her daughter would give one-word answers or go straight to her room. Erin would follow her, push a little harder, try to talk through it, and end up in a full-blown argument or cold shoulder standoff. Erin was convinced if she would just talk to me, we'd be fine. And yes, it's understandable. Erin missed the connection. She wanted closeness, and that's not wrong. But in her pursuit of that connection, she had started managing her daughter's emotional life, monitoring her behavior, analyzing every little reaction, and it left her feeling powerless. So we worked on shifting the focus back to her. What was she thinking, feeling, and doing in those moments? What could she take ownership of without needing her daughter to meet her halfway? We landed on a simple but powerful shift. Instead of following her daughter down the hall every day, she decided to write a short note and leave it on her nightstand. No strings, just, I'm glad you're home, I love you, and I'm here when you want to talk. Within a week, her daughter came out of her room on her own and sat with her while she folded laundry. You see, when we stop trying to control and start focusing on our own posture, we invite connection instead of demanding it. So what do we do instead of controlling? It's okay to speak up, to make a request, to say, hey, when you do this, here's what goes on in my head. Here's how it affects me. That's healthy communication. That's taking ownership of your emotional experience. But what's not helpful is speaking from a place of superiority or judgment, like, I'm right, you're wrong. Even when there's a real moral issue at play, Scripture cautions us to check our posture. James 4:6 says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humility matters because when we're in that prideful space, it's really easy to slide into victimhood, believing their behavior is ruining our peace, that they're intentionally hurting us, that we'd be fine if they would just get it together. But here's the thing, people don't act out of your logic. They act out of their own, their beliefs, history, wounds, and values. When we can pause and remember that, we create room for understanding. Not agreement necessarily, but understanding. And from that place, we can respond with clarity rather than react with control. One of the most helpful images for me is the picture in 1 Corinthians 12. Paul's talking about the church, but I think it gives us a powerful framework for marriage and relationships too. Even so, the body is not made up of one, but of many parts. The body of Christ isn't a blueprint where everyone follows the same steps. It's a body with different parts, each doing something unique. The lungs don't function like the stomach. The foot doesn't act like the hand. But they do work together, and each part matters. Now, if I'm being honest, Rich and I are very different. I'm practical, I can get task-oriented, and he's probably more naturally relational. He's better at being in the moment. Early in our marriage, this was hard for me. I'd get frustrated that he wasn't more on top of things, more aware of what needed to be done to manage the house. He'd procrastinate things I wanted done yesterday. He still tends to leave piles out rather than organizing or filing them away, which to me just looks like clutter. And when I get in the headspace that my way is the right way, or worse, that I'm somehow better, you know what you end up with? Two uptight people. But over time, I've learned to value the way his brain works. He's not ignoring the to-do list to drive me crazy. He just genuinely doesn't see what I see, and it doesn't bother him. He's present. He's relaxed. He's good at being with people and soaking in a moment. And that's something I've needed. Now, after 25 years of marriage, I think we've slowly shaped each other. I become more relaxed, a little able to slow down and enjoy the moment. And I think he's become more thoughtful about getting things done, especially the things he knows are important to me. And honestly, I think some of those things have become important to him too. But it's been a slow shaping, and I don't think it would have happened if we were constantly resisting or rejecting one another. So if your spouse or your child or your parent doesn't think or function the way you do, take a moment to pause and ask, what would they have to give up about themselves if they were exactly like me? Appreciate seeing the world through their eyes, not just your own, because we're not meant to be mirrors of each other. We're meant to be a body, each part bringing something valuable and different. Letting go of control doesn't mean pretending someone's behavior isn't hurtful. There are things people do that are damaging or selfish or just completely out of line with your values. So let me be clear. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to name it. It's okay to say, this isn't okay with me. A woman I worked with, we'll call her Rachel, she shared how her husband had a habit of interrupting her in front of others. It wasn't cruel or aggressive, but it made her feel dismissed, like her words didn't matter. At first, she tried to overlook it, told herself she was being too sensitive. But every time it happened, something in her sank a little lower. She started avoiding conversations when they were with friends or extended family. She was quiet at dinners, numb in a group setting. Eventually, she brought it up. But she didn't say, "You're so rude, you always cut me off." She said, "When I'm interrupted, especially in front of other people, it feels like what I'm saying doesn't matter. And I know that may not be your intent, but I wanted you to know how it's landing for me." That's what taking responsibility for your emotional experience looks like. She named it clearly, honestly, without superiority, without assuming his motives. Romans 12:18 says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." And that's the key, as far as it depends on you. That's where your power is, in your thoughts, your model, your boundaries, not in trying to bend someone else to your will. So what if he does change and it's still not enough? A woman finally gets the changes she's been begging for. Her husband goes to counseling. He starts listening better. Maybe he even brings her flowers or plans a weekend away like she's been asking for years. And she still doesn't feel connected. Why? Because now it feels transactional, like he's just checking the boxes, doing it because she asked him to, not because he sees her or wants to pursue her in a meaningful way. The heart behind it doesn't feel there. And listen, she's not wrong to long for more. She's not asking for too much. She's asking for what we were created for, heart-level connection, a relationship that's alive and mutual and rich. But it also reveals something important. Even when someone does exactly what we think we want, it may not be enough, because what we're craving isn't just behavior change. It's emotional intimacy. It's feeling seen, chosen, pursued, not just with words or flowers, but with presence, with desire, with delight. And here's the truth. that aches a little to admit. That kind of connection can't be manufactured. It can't be forced. It can't be controlled. It can only be invited. And even then, it's not guaranteed. That's where things get tender, because underneath that longing, there's often this deeper belief. If I could just get them to change, I'd finally feel safe, secure, wanted. But when we expect our husband, our child, our best friend to feel the deepest longings of our soul, we're putting them in a role they were never meant to hold. We're not bowing down to them like an idol, but we're handing them the responsibility of our peace, our identity, for our hope. And that's a heavy weight no human was meant to carry. Psalm 62:5 says, "Yes, my soul find rest in God. My hope comes from him." Only God can meet us at that level. Only God can satisfy that ache. Only God can love you perfectly, see you fully, and never burn out trying to prove it. So let people be people, let God be God, and let your soul find rest there. One of the most powerful thoughts I've learned over the years is this: other people get to do what they want to do. Or as a popular author recently wrote, the book, Let Them. When you really let that settle in, it can feel so freeing. You stop micromanaging. You stop living in a loop of disappointment. You stop trying to contort yourself to change someone else's behavior. But here's the catch. Sometimes in that freedom, we overcorrect. We think, well, if I can't control them, I'm just going to check out. I'll do me, you do you, and we'll just coexist. And sure, that might reduce conflict, but it also creates distance, loneliness. You end up with two people living parallel lives under the same roof, polite, detached, and no longer building anything together. Letting go of control is healthy, but detachment, that's a different story. We want to detach in such a way that we're not trying to own their model. We're not getting in their lane of traffic, but we do want to stay attached enough that we're turning toward and engaging with them and inviting them to share our lives. So how do we find the balance? You create space without shutting down. You stay grounded in your model, and you also make bids for connection. You say what you feel. You stay engaged. You stay curious. You own your thoughts and feelings without dumping those on the other person. Ephesians 4:2-3 says, "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace." It's not about becoming indifferent. It's about relational maturity. You recognize that people will make their own choices, and some of those may hurt you. You don't have to pretend it's fine. You don't have to stay silent. But you also don't have to collapse your peace every time someone else does something you wouldn't choose. Proverbs 19:11 says, "A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense." Not to ignore it, but to pause, step back, consider what else might be going on. Slow the story down and get curious, because that's what healthy people do. That's what free people do. That's what spirit-led people do. They don't control, and they don't completely detach. They stay connected without taking ownership for someone else's soul. This isn't easy work. Loving people well while releasing the grip of control, it takes practice, it takes prayer, and a whole lot of trust. But the freedom it brings to you and to your relationships is worth it. You don't have to carry what isn't yours. You don't have to manage someone else's story. You get to show up with truth, love, and grace, and let God do what only He can do. If this episode stirred something in you, if you're recognizing where control has kept in or where disconnection has taken root, don't just walk away with more insight. Pick one relationship that's been feeling heavy or stuck and ask, what is mine to carry here? What would it look like to stay grounded in your model, speak with humility, and still stay engaged? This is exactly the kind of work we do inside Clarity and Courage. Together, we practice these shifts. We slow down. We get coached. We learn to relate differently so we can feel empowered and free, even when the people in our lives don't change. So if you're tired of trying to figure this all out on your own, come join us. You don't have to do it alone. And if this episode helped you today, would you take a second to follow the podcast so you never miss what's next? Share it with a friend who might need to hear this reminder. And for more tools to help you move from consuming information to living it out, visit myhappyvault.com. We're in this together. Join me next week as we wrap up the Loosening Your Grip series. You won't want to miss this last episode. And until then, keep becoming the woman God says you already are. Hey, before you go, if your days mostly revolve around errands, logistics, or scrolling side by side on the couch, if it's been a while since you felt really close or excited about your marriage, it might be time for a little reinvention. Relationship Reinvention is a self-paced experience made up of 12 meaningful sessions you and your spouse can walk through together at your own pace, in your own way. You'll get lifetime access, so there's no rush. And when you join this month, you'll also get 3 live group coaching calls with me as a bonus. Just head to myhappyvault.com to learn more and join us. I'd love to have you.